If you spend enough time in this hobby, you'll eventually begin to realize something quite strange. Two fish can look very similar, they can come from the same ocean, they can fill the same role in an aquarium as well, and yet one will only cost you a few hundred or even less, and some will cost more than a car. In this video, I want to take a look at exactly how that happens, how certain tropical fish can become really expensive, and what has to line up biologically and environmentally for that to happen. Welcome to the science behind. Some fish are genuinely rare in the wild. They live in small ranges or their populations are naturally low. Other species will exist in relatively large numbers and you can find them across multiple different reefs or habitats. And yet, when you look at the prices in the aquarium trade, something strange has happened. Some of the truly rare fish in the wild, they will actually sell for very little. For example, endless live bearers are endangered in the wild but relatively inexpensive in the hobby because breeders have produced large numbers of them, while certain species that are not incredibly rare can actually cost thousands of dollars. Why is that? The answer lies in what we can call effective rarity, the number of fish that actually survive collection, transport, and acclimation to an aquarium. A fish might be common in its natural habitat, but if it struggles to survive the journey to a hobbyist tank's, its availability collapses. Some species handle stress, temperature changes, and shipping well, others don't. By the time a high-end fish reaches a buyer, it may be one of only a few individuals that actually made it through the process. And that is what drives the price. Not simply how rare it is in the ocean or the rivers, but how rare it is in the tank. Some of the most expensive marine fish live in places most hobbyists never see, which are the dark, deep reefs, often tens of meters below the surface, are home to species that rarely come into contact with divers. Living at those depths creates a very specific set of challenges. Light is more limited, pressure is higher, and the environment is stable, but it's also quite fragile. That combination makes these fish extremely difficult to collect. Divers need specialized equipment, limited dive time, and careful ascent procedures to avoid injuring the fish. And then, many don't survive the trip to the surface. Some fish, however, are slightly more resilient. The peppermint angelfish, for example, lives in deep reefs and is prized for its bright red and white coloration. Very few survive the collection process, which is why individual specimens sell for up to $20,000 or even more. Depth doesn't just make collection harder, it also affects which species survive transport and acclimation. The deeper the fish's natural habitat, the more fragile it tends to be outside that environment. And that fragility directly translates into price. The fewer that survive, the higher the cost. In other words, it's not just rarity or beauty that drives the price, it's the difficulty of safely bringing these fish from a remote, high-pressure environment into a home aquarium. Another reason why some fish are so expensive is simply that they cannot be bred reliably in captivity. Some species have complex life cycles, their larvae may drift in the open ocean for weeks before they even settle, and they may require very specific planktonic diets or precise water chemistry, light or temperature conditions. Even if collectors can bring adults home safely, producing a second generation is often nearly impossible. Take the Bladefin Basslet for example. It lives deep on reefs and has very delicate larval stages. Breeding them in captivity hasn't been successfully scaled, and that's why their numbers in the trade are extremely low and prices are therefore very high. Some freshwater species face similar challenges. Even if a fish isn't especially rare in the wild, if it refuses to breed in tanks, every individual has to come from wild or imported stock. When you combine these biological limits with collection difficulties, transport fragility, and mortality along the way, it can actually become very clear as to why certain fish command thousands of dollars. Some of the most expensive fish don't just survive the journey to your tank, they also look almost unreal. A big part of that comes from structural coloration. Many deep reef species have evolved brilliant reds, oranges, or even metallic patterns. These colors aren't just pigment, they're actually created by microscopic structures in the skin that reflect and scatter light in very specific ways. At depth, red light is absorbed quickly by the water, so fish that live in there often evolve intense red or striking contrast in order to communicate, attract mates, or hide in shadows. These patterns are honed by evolution, and they're not just traits that can easily be bred or replicated in captivity. The golden basslet is a clear example. Its shimmering gold color is unlike anything in closely related species, and its fragility and rarity make it extremely expensive. And of course, human perception plays a role. Fish that are rare, fragile, and also visually striking attract collectors. Here, supply and demand kicks in. A few surviving individuals with a dramatic appearance become highly desirable, and prices reflect that scarcity and their demand. But at the end of the day, the fish themselves do not decide how much they're worth. Prices in the aquarium trade are determined by multiple measurable factors. Some species are fragile and difficult to transport, which reduces the number that survive to reach aquariums. Others have complex reproductive cycles that make captive breeding challenging or even impossible. Deep reef fish face high collection mortality due to pressure changes and habitat constraints. Coloration and patterning shaped by evolutionary pressures also contribute. Structural colors and red light absorption at depth create visual traits that cannot be replicated through selective breeding at scale. And finally, market dynamics influence price. Species with low supply and high demand naturally achieve higher values, independent of their rarity in the wild. Historical collection volumes, survival rates, and desirability within the collector market all contribute to the economic outcome. In combination, these biological, environmental, and economic factors will actually then explain why certain tropical fish reach prices far above others. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see a breakdown of the 10 most expensive marine aquarium fish, hit the like button, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.